My name is Saqib. I wore the uniform of a captain in the Pakistani army, cloaked in honor, pride, and the facade of unwavering faith. I believed I was defending my land, my people, and my beliefs. But beneath the surface of that steel resolve lay a growing chasm, a spiritual emptiness that gnawed at my very soul. Each day on the battlefield deepened my disillusionment, a silent echo whispering, "What lies beyond the smoke? What is this all for?" Then, in an instant, everything shifted. Ambush. Chaos erupted, and amidst the cacophony of gunfire and screams, I found myself suspended between existence and oblivion. That moment of impending death birthed a revelation. I was thrust into an ethereal realm, enveloped in warmth and light. And there, standing before me with an aura of divine love, was Jesus. He didn't come to lecture me on my failures. Instead, he unveiled truths veiled in shadows. The manipulation orchestrated by unseen puppet masters, the divisions sown among humanity, and the spiritual war masquerading as worldly battles, he revealed it all. My heart raced as I understood the magnitude of the deception perpetuated through fear and control. I was being awakened, not just for myself, but for countless others trapped in the ever-tightening grip of ignorance. This was no mere encounter. It was a calling. I felt an urgency pulsating through my veins, a mission to awaken those ensnared by lies, to shine a light on the very fabric of reality that had been distorted for too long. As I stared into the compassionate eyes of Jesus, I realized the battles we fought weren't just against flesh and blood. They were a desperate struggle against the very shadows that sought to envelop our souls. As I prepare to share my testimony with you, I invite you to take a moment. Comment below. Where are you watching from, and what time is it there? I want to connect with you on this journey. And don't forget to subscribe to Truth from Beyond. Together, we'll uncover layers of truth that speak of liberation and hope, a message that demands to be heard. What I'm about to reveal could transform everything you thought you knew. The awakening is just beginning. I remember the day as if it were yesterday. The sun hung like a dull coin over the mountains, casting shadows that seemed to deepen the ongoing gloom inside me. As a captain in the Pakistan Army, my life was one of discipline, honor, and unyielding loyalty. I was trained to suppress emotion, to put away thoughts of fear and regret behind the cold, hard facade of uniformed valor. Yet, beneath the surface, there was a growing void, a spiritual emptiness that clung to me like the dust of the dusty roads I trod. The battles I'd seen in the tribal regions, fraught with sacrifice and loss, whispered the same question over and over. What was left once the smoke cleared and the echoes of gunfire faded? My routine was built on rituals reinforced by my surroundings. Every morning began with the prayers led by military imams who enforced religious compliance through their dogma woven into our training. We were a part of the system, a nationalist machine, where loyalty to Islam was reinforced by the uniforms we wore and the oaths we took. Yet, amid the synchronized marching and the patriotic chants, I felt a dissonance. I felt the tug of something deeper, something that couldn't be ignored. It was as if my soul was embroiled in a silent spiritual war, one I was unaware I was even fighting. Then came the attack. It was an ambush that would change everything. I experienced an electric surge as an explosion erupted nearby, sending shockwaves through my body. The world tilted, and everything faded into a surreal blur. It was in that moment of impending doom, caught between life and oblivion, that I had my near-death experience. I didn't just see darkness. I was transported into an abyss filled with light, a brilliance that swallowed me whole. In that ethereal expanse, Jesus appeared before me. He was the embodiment of love, wisdom, and truth. Everything I had been seeking, yet had blindly overlooked. In our encounter, he revealed profound secrets that lay shrouded in deception. The truths about the governing elite, their hidden agenda, and the manipulation of masses became crystal clear. Jesus spoke of a coming awakening, a time when humanity would need to rise above the tribal deceptions perpetuated by those in power. He showed me the threads that connected wars, societal divisions, and the manipulation by leaders who thrived on discord rather than unity. My heart raced as I realized that the battles fought in the physical realm were merely reflections of a deeper spiritual conflict, one that beckoned to be acknowledged and rectified. The weight of these revelations crashed over me like a tsunami. I saw how technology was being wielded not as a tool for connection, but for control. How information was weaponized to turn neighbor against neighbor, brother against brother. I understood then that the very foundations of our beliefs were being challenged and twisted by forces that thrived in shadows. The clarity that flooded my mind was overwhelming. I was thrust into an urgency that clawed at my insides. Jesus urged me to awaken and share this message, a warning against the spiritual apathy that was permeating our society. As consciousness returned and I found myself back in my mangled body, I realized this was not merely a second chance at life. It was a mission, and imperative call to expose the truth hidden within layers of lies. But as I lay there, grappling with this new reality, doubt nestled in beside the urgency. Could I truly convey what I had witnessed? Could I challenge the entrenched ideologies of a nation steeped in its own narrative? I became acutely aware that my journey was far from over. Manipulation ran deep, and the path ahead would be fraught with obstacles. But like a flame ignited in the depths of despair, I felt a flicker of hope. And awakening that could ripple through the fabric of our society, if only I found the courage to carry this truth into the world. The battle, both within and without, was just beginning. As I navigated the ordinary life of a truck driver, the miles stretched endlessly before me, an asphalt river winding through the heart of America. Each destination brought the familiar rhythm of my routine, loading and unloading, fueling up at rest stops, and the solitary calm that accompanied me on those long stretches of open road. But beneath that routine, a dull ache persisted, a whisper of discontent that gnawed at my soul. I had felt the weight of the world crashing down, an inexplicable heaviness that hinted at an impending storm. It wasn't until the fateful day that everything changed. The accident was sudden, a collision, a terrifying scream of metal against metal. Nothing else mattered in those fleeting moments. One minute I was on the road, the next I was trapped in darkness, the remnants of my life slipping away. I felt my body grow cold, and in that moment of despair, a light pierced through the veil of death. It wasn't harsh or blinding, it was warm, inviting. As I surrendered to the light, I was lifted from my earthly form, and in that moment, I felt free from everything that had shackled me. In that sacred place, fear dissipated, replaced by an overwhelming sense of peace that I had never known. Within that ethereal space, I came face to face with a figure bathed in the purest light, Jesus. There was no condemnation, only love that enveloped me like a gentle embrace. His voice was the very essence of compassion, calming the chaos within my soul. "You have lived in ignorance," he spoke, "but now the truth must be revealed to you." Suddenly, visions played before my eyes, the cries of innocents caught in the crossfire of political wars, leaders swathed in deception while preaching unity, and a facade built by an elite that thrived on division and manipulation. As if peeling back the layers of an onion, the harsh realities behind every headline came into focus. The urgency grew as I witnessed wars not fought for territory, but orchestrated as part of a broader spiritual war. Each explosion was not just a moment of chaos, but a deliberate act steeped in a hidden agenda that sought to keep humanity blind to their divine purpose. I saw the strings pulled by the world's elite, powerful forces sowing discord, using technology as an instrument of control rather than liberation. In this space of revelation, I felt a deep kinship with my fellow human beings, a shared struggle against the oppressive forces that cloud our judgment and awaken us to the disarray. I realized that faith must transcend the confines of religion. It needed to transform into an awakening of the spirit, a battle fought not with bullets, but with truth and love. With each passing revelation, I felt a fire ignite within me, compelling me to bring this truth back to the world. I understood I was chosen, not for glory or recognition, but to awaken others, to share the understanding that the man-made divisions we suffered under were mere illusions, a trick of the light designed to keep us in the dark. As my spirit began to hesitate, drawing me back toward the earthly realm, I felt a profound urgency to carry this mission forward. Awareness rushed through me like a tidal wave, preparing me for a reality that echoed with intensity and concern. My heart raced as the echoes of Jesus' voice lingered, a soft yet powerful reminder that the battle was just beginning. As I drifted back towards consciousness, the world felt different, tinged with a renewed sense of purpose. I could hardly comprehend how I would navigate the tangled web of deception that permeated society. But I knew this. The truth burned ready to break free, seeking a voice to carry it. My days would no longer consist of quiet solitude on the open road. No, there was an urgent message now that needed to be shared. A truth hidden in plain sight, veiled by manipulation and distraction. The mission ahead was monumental, and as I stepped back into my life, the stakes had never felt higher. The real war had only just begun. I remember that day as clearly as if it were yesterday, though it feels like a lifetime ago. I was just a humble truck driver, navigating the winding roads of Afghanistan, delivering supplies to remote military bases. Life was simple, routine, filled with long hours and the comforting hum of my engine. But beneath the surface, a restlessness brewed in my heart. The war around me felt endless. The faces of the locals, often filled with fear and desperation, weighed heavily on my conscience. I'd stared into the eyes of children who were unaware of the battles that raged just beyond their small villages. Then came the day that changed everything. As I was barreling down a stretch of desolate terrain, my thoughts consumed by the weight of responsibility and loss, fate intervened. In an instant, it happened. A deafening explosion tore through the air as my truck struck a hidden landmine. Time seemed to dilate as the world around me erupted into chaos. I was thrown violently, my body tossed like a rag doll, pain blooming through me like wildfire. Darkness crept in on the edges of my vision as I lay there, bleeding, despair wrapping itself around my heart. In those critical moments, as the noise faded into an eerie silence, an intense light enveloped me, a brilliance that pierced through the veil of pain. I felt as though I was being drawn upward, away from my fractured body, into a realm I had only ever dared to imagine. And then, from within the glow, a figure emerged. He approached me, radiant and inviting, his presence filling me with a profound peace I had never known. "I am Jesus," he said softly, his voice resonating deep within my soul. "I came to rescue you and show you the truth." Overwhelmed by an embrace of warmth, I felt every ounce of fear and doubt lift from me. It was as if I was being cradled in a reality beyond my understanding. In that sacred moment, Jesus revealed the hidden agenda of our world, the manipulation of the elite, a tapestry woven from deception and power. I saw the strings that bound humanity to a cycle of suffering, wars ignited by shadows obscuring the truth of our existence. I witnessed leaders who justified violence, cloaked in righteousness, while thousands paid the price of their ambition. I cried out in anguish as the Realization washed over me. What I had trusted, what I had fought for, was all part of a grand illusion designed to enslave us. Jesus spoke to my heart, unveiling truths about society, technology, and the future of humanity. The division you see among people is a facade, he revealed with a grave urgency. It is a distraction from the love that unites you all. Awaken, for vast spiritual battles rage around you. Many are blinded by the lies of the world, while the few seek to retain power through chaos. I was awash in revelations, sights and sounds that could only be described as supernatural. Each word he spoke seemed to ripple through the fabric of my being, igniting a fire of urgency within me. The weight of awakening lay upon my shoulders, yet I felt hope. A yearning urge to spread this truth, to awaken others from their slumber. Just as I felt a surge of empowerment, the light began to fade, pulling me back toward my earthly shell. You must not fear the journey ahead, he instilled within me, for your life is now dedicated to seeking truth and guiding others in this spiritual war. My spirit trembled as I felt myself slipping away, awareness drifting back into darkness, the pain of my injuries pulsing anew. My consciousness flickered, caught between two worlds. I was both exalted and terrified. My body was bound by reality, but my soul now bore the weight of a mission, a purpose far greater than I had ever envisioned. And with that, I awoke, gasping for breath, but forever changed. The details of my awakening became a mixture of clarity and confusion, my world suddenly filled with the anguish that surrounded me. The visions of Jesus still burned in my mind, a bright contrast to the grim reality of war. I watched through swollen eyes as medics worked fervently to save my life, their faces consumed by a hail of chaos. Yet in that tumultuous moment, I knew that a divine call had been placed within me, a yearning to rise above the ordinary and confront the sinister. Truth spoken by my Savior. My heart raced with newfound purpose, but the clarity of that encounter rested heavily on my conscience, resonating through the stories of those still lost in darkness, their eyes veiled by deception. How many bodies had been caught in the crossfire of politics and power? How many souls remained blind to the truths I had glimpsed? With each breath, I struggled against the weight of these questions, knowing they carried the burden of urgency. The revelation of what lay ahead, a war not only against flesh and blood but against the spiritual forces manipulating the hearts of men, left me shaken. The mission was now clear. I must awaken those who were still enslaved by the narratives sold to them, to share the truth of what I had witnessed with my own eyes. There was no time to waste, for the world was spiraling deeper into darkness, and I was called to light the way. As I recovered from my physical injuries, every word of Jesus echoed in my spirit, igniting a fire within me that refused to be extinguished. I began seeking others who shared my yearning for truth, fellow travelers on this arduous path of awakening. Our conversations would unfold late into the night, the gravity of our shared revelations and experiences pulling us closer together. Each encounter, whether fleeting or prolonged, was laden with urgency and spiritual richness, marking the beginning of a collective understanding that transcended our individual pains. The battle was far from over, and the call to action was more potent than ever. It was time to rally those around me, to scream from the rooftops that the time for awakening was now. And with each revelation, a spark ignited within, setting the stage for a mission that had only just begun. I was lying in that military hospital bed, the sterile scent of antiseptic filling my senses, a stark contrast to the chaos of the battlefield I had just escaped. My body was broken, bruised, and stitched together, a living testament to survival. Yet it was my mind that wrestled hardest. The vision from my near-death experience still flickered through my thoughts, a radiant light I could not shake off. I shared it only with Ahmed, a trusted friend who sat at my bedside. When I recounted the encounter with Jesus, his face went pale. "You can't speak of this again," he whispered urgently, glancing around as if the very walls had ears. "You don't understand the danger you're in." As those words settled in my chest, dread took root. Rumors began to swirl, whispers spreading through the ranks like wildfire. I could see the shadows of suspicion flicker in my superiors' eyes as they summoned me for what they termed spiritual guidance. The pressure was suffocating, cloaked in the guise of care. "You must deepen your Islamic practices," they insisted, the underlying threat hanging heavy in the air. I could feel their expectation, the weight of tradition pushing me down, trying to erase any trace of the truth I had uncovered. Yet every ounce of compliance felt like treachery to the revelation I had received. At home, I hesitated to speak of my experience, fearing my family's reaction. When I finally mustered the courage to mention Jesus, their faces transformed, shock woven with shame. My mother's hand trembled, and my father's silence screamed louder than words. "What are you saying?" they gasped, their eyes reflecting betrayal rather than understanding. My heart sank, realizing I was now an outcast. Within my own family, caught between two worlds, the faith I was taught, and a light that continued to call me forward, demanding an exploration of the uncharted territory of my soul. Isolated, yet driven by this intense need for truth, I sought knowledge in the scriptures of various faiths. Each page turned became another step into the abyss of spiritual warfare that bruised our world. I encountered men's manipulation of faith, bitterness gnawing at the fabric of society, and a deliberate blindness towards the suffering that enveloped us. I saw the elite, cloaked in secrecy and adorned with the trappings of power, artfully shaping our realities. They wielded division as a weapon, using fear to control the masses. What I witnessed ignited a fire within, an urgent call for awakening. I recognized the faces of my brothers and sisters, each one part of a battle much larger than ourselves. Daily, the burden of this knowledge grew heavier, matched only by the deepening divide and chaos around me. News reports echoed the wars, the unrest. The world was shifting, trapped in the throes of conflict. My heart ached as a sense of urgency unfurled, reminding me of the words Jesus spoke in that light. The world is in turmoil, but there is hope. Each revelation unfurled before me with great clarity, a divine compass guiding me through a labyrinth of deception. I could no longer remain a passive observer, for we were all soldiers in a spiritual war, a battle not just against flesh, but a struggle against the powers that sought to silence the truth. As I lay awake at night, the visions and revelations haunted me, melding with the images of despair I saw daily. The very fabric of society felt frayed, as each act of hatred echoed the deeper, insidious manipulations that had led us here. With every heartbeat, I felt a relentless urge to rise, to share this truth, to awaken those around me to the realities we faced. I brimmed with an unquenchable thirst for meaning, for clarity, and for peace amidst the turmoil that surrounded us. I knew my life had shifted into an uncharted path, a call to arms for those willing to see beyond the veil of deception, to recognize the spiritual fracture within us all. But where would this journey lead me next? What awaited in the shadows? I remember sitting in the driver's seat of my old truck, the engine rumbling softly as I drove down the familiar highway, the sun dipping below the horizon. It was just another long haul, another day of delivering goods across the countryside. My life had always been a series of routines: wake up, drive, sleep, repeat. But that night, something felt different. Perhaps it was the heaviness in the air, a subtle shift that lay beyond my understanding. As I flipped on the radio, a news segment crackled to life, covering yet another violent conflict overseas. The words "spiritual war" echoed in my mind, stirring an unsettling thought that something deeper was affecting our world. Little did I know, It was not long before the ordinary would collide with the supernatural. In the blink of an eye, disaster struck. The headlights of an oncoming vehicle blinded me, and before I could react, everything went dark. In that terrifying moment of impact, I found myself floating outside my body, looking down at the wreckage. There was no pain, just a surreal calm. It was then I encountered him, Jesus, radiant and full of love, his presence enveloping me like a warm embrace. He spoke.
Softly, yet every word felt like thunder in my soul. I'm here to show you the truth. What unfolded in that incredible moment was a series of revelations that shattered the illusory world I had known. From visions of societal collapse to glimpses of the elite orchestrating chaos for their own agendas, the scenes flashed before me like a cosmic slideshow. There was a deep-rooted deception that had gripped humanity, blinding us to the realities of our existence. I witnessed leaders weaving elaborate tales to maintain their power, manipulating the masses with a strategy that turned brother against brother and neighbor against neighbor. The false narratives that divided us rang true with the understanding I gained there. Each image was a wake-up call, a crucial inflection point where humanity could either awaken or remain ensnared in darkness. It was an urgent reminder of the spiritual war being waged around us, the stakes higher than we could ever imagine. As I descended deeper into this divine encounter, I began to grasp the significance of technology. I saw how it could be wielded as an instrument of enlightenment, yet equally as a weapon of manipulation in the hands of those who sought control. The slides morphed, revealing how this very technology had infiltrated our lives, creating distances between people, dulling our spiritual senses. I realized that even the most innocuous devices were potentially part of a hidden agenda designed to distract us from the truth. This duality sat heavy on my heart. I knew I had to share what I learned, even if it meant sacrificing my safety. Each revelation tied together like threads in a vast tapestry, forming a picture of the world on the verge of awakening or destruction. Suddenly, I was thrust back into my body, the sounds of sirens piercing the stillness of the night. The weight of my experience bore down on me like a storm cloud, swirling with urgency. I could barely process what had transpired. I ached to share these truths, yet felt the specter of judgment lurking around every corner, ready to devour the light that had entered my life. The car accident and my near-death experience had simply served as the catalyst for this awakening. Outside the confines of the hospital, whispers of my encounter felt dangerous. Would anyone believe me? Would they understand the significance of Jesus' words? Just days later, I started hearing murmurs in my community that further confirmed my fears. People were slowly vanishing under the pretext of compliance. Brothers turned against brothers for their beliefs, mirroring the struggles I foresaw. As I lay awake at night, the truth weighed heavily upon me. My path was now one of courage, a journey into the unknown, filled with the continuous struggle between light and dark. The realizations I had received from Jesus could not remain within me. They demanded action. I had to find a way to awaken others, yet how do you shake them from their slumber? My heart raced with the thought of what lay ahead, igniting a fire within that could not be extinguished. I began seeking like-minded souls, those who understood the quiet battles being fought in the unseen realms around us. Little did I know this was just the beginning of a much larger narrative, one that beckoned for my voice and demanded clarity in a world awash in confusion, where the forces of deception sought to quench the light. A relentless sense of purpose had followed me throughout my life as an engineer. Every blueprint I drafted brought me closer to dreams I believed were worth pursuing, those dreams tethered to family, stability, and a bright future. My days were filled with number crunching and deadlines, yet somewhere deep inside, an unshakable question lingered, one that had often been brushed aside in my busy life.
What is the truth behind our existence? It was during a drive home late one evening, the kind where the weight of the day settled into my bones, that everything changed. A sudden collision, the world around me spiraled into darkness as metal crunched and glass shattered. In that fleeting moment of near death, I felt myself slipping away. I found myself suspended in an abyss, where time held no meaning, enveloped by an overwhelming presence. As I drifted in and out of consciousness, light began to unfurl, and there he was, Jesus. I cannot describe the sheer love radiating from him. It was as if every moment of pain and doubt dissolved into an ocean of grace. You've been searching for truth, he spoke. The world is full of deceptions, yet my love can shatter the veil that blinds you. Those words struck deep, reverberating within the confines of my soul. It was in that divine presence that I witnessed the hidden agendas tearing humanity apart. Politics, religion, and power combined as tools of the elite, keeping the masses divided and ignorant while they manipulated the narratives that shape our reality. In that spiritual confrontation, a vision unfolded before me, scenes of wars igniting, families torn apart by ideologies battling for dominance. I saw children crying, their futures extinguished by conflicts fueled not by necessity, but by the greed of those sitting atop thrones of power. All the while I realized this was but a microcosm of a greater spiritual war, a battle that raged beyond the physical realm, where the forces of good and evil collided within every heart. I felt the urgency sweep through me like a tidal wave. I understood I had returned not just to live, but to bear witness to the truth I had been blind to. It was as if I had been reborn into a world that had always been, yet rarely recognized. Emerging from my near-death experience, the mundane reality felt foreign. The urgency to share what I had witnessed grew intolerable. I began to explore, to listen to others who felt the same stirring in their hearts. Whispers of underground gatherings caught my attention, spaces where truth-seekers hid from a world that threatened persecution for questioning the status quo. I joined these clandestine meetings, where Christians shared their struggles against a tide of oppression. Each story was a reminder that the revelation I encountered was not mine alone. It was the collective awakening of souls emerging from a shroud of deception, glimmers of hope igniting amidst the oppressive shadows. Beneath the surface of these gatherings, I sensed anxiety brewing. News echoed far and wide, corrupt leaders, leveraging technology, spying, manipulating, and controlling narratives like puppetry in a grand theater of deceit. The veil had been lifted. The stakes felt higher than ever. I approached baptism not simply as an act of faith, but as a spiritual declaration against the injustices plaguing our world. The water embraced me, and as I came up for air, the brilliance of truth coursed through my veins, a river of grace, cleansing the remnants of fear. Yet, I knew that for every step forward, retaliation lurked in the shadows. Conversations of vigilance buzzed around me. My existence was now entwined with a mission larger than myself, one to guide those still ensnared in the web of deception. In those moments, I recognized that the revelations were only the beginning. Each awakening unveiled more layers of the truth. The realization that humanity was teetering on the brink of monumental change, caught in a cycle perpetuated by the puppet masters of society. I could see it vividly, a stark juxtaposition between hope and despair, a greater awakening waiting to unfold if only more would choose to see. The spiritual war would not relent, and the path toward redemption would spark both fear and courage. As I ventured deeper into understanding my purpose, a nagging question surfaced. What might this mean for all of us? I felt the tangible weight of uncertainty loom ahead, compelling me to stand, to shout, to provoke a restless longing for the truth buried within every heart. I remember the day it all changed for me. It was a routine patrol, one I had executed countless times as a soldier in the Pakistani army. The sun hung low, casting long shadows over the rugged landscape, and as I surveyed the horizon, an unshakable feeling gripped my heart. There was something sinister lurking beneath the surface, an invisible dread overshadowing our mission. We were ordered to proceed with a military operation against Christian villages near the border. I had trained for this, believed in it, but as I witnessed the faces of innocent people, I felt a profound sense of disquiet. Was I truly defending anything? Or was I merely a pawn in someone else's game? That moment of hesitation shattered everything. My refusal to carry out the orders didn't go unnoticed. Within hours, I was arrested for insubordination. As I was dragged down the cold, dimly lit hallways of our base, each echo of my footsteps resonated like the tolling of a bell. I was thrown into solitary confinement, wrapped in darkness, deprived of the very light that once framed my existence. Days turned into weeks. Each second bled into the next, a ceaseless torment of silence. But in that isolation, amidst my despair, I clung to the only truth I knew, my longing for a deeper understanding of faith. Then came the day everything changed again, a moment of sheer terror and yet inexplicable peace. I found myself staring into a void, engulfed in an unsettling stillness. At that moment, when the world faded into obscurity, something remarkable happened. I was enveloped by an indescribable light. It was then that I encountered him, Jesus. His presence transcended the confines of my cell and reached into the depths of my spirit. I had heard his name whispered in desperate prayers, surrounded by tales of his mercy, yet never had I felt such authenticity. His voice resonated within me, unveiling hidden truths about not only my life, but the very fabric of our reality. In those sacred seconds, Jesus revealed a spiritual war raging beyond what my eyes could see. A war not merely fought with guns and bombs, but one that plagues every soul. I witnessed the manipulation of the elite, the puppet masters pulling strings, orchestrating chaos to maintain their grip on power. He spoke of a truth slowly eroded by deception, a design meticulously crafted to keep humanity shackled in fear and division. My eyes opened to the ages of conflict, not just in our lands, but within the hearts of every person caught in the web of dogma. I realized there were many like me, lost souls thirsting for liberation from a deceptive narrative that defined their very existence. The light began fading, yet his promise lingered in the air. I knew I wasn't meant to return simply for the sake of existing. Awakening ignited within me the fervor to expose the truth I had witnessed. The brothers I once stood beside in arms were cloaked in darkness, unaware of the chains binding them. I imagined gathering those questioning their faith, a space where dialogue could birth understanding and love. But I also recognized the peril my actions would provoke. The elite did not play fair. They annihilate anyone who threatens the status quo. With each brave step forward, I bore the weight of my newfound mission, perpetually wondering if I could truly change the tide. After all, what good was a lighthouse if the storms of fear sought to extinguish its light? As I connected with hidden networks of believers, the heaviness of impending danger became palpable. They would stop at nothing to protect their secrets. I deliberated in the labyrinth of fear. Could I confront the monster lurking beyond the veil? Yet amidst the tumult, I felt the warmth of Jesus' assurance. He encapsulated me in the profound revelation of hope, one that extended beyond harm and retaliation. Was I prepared to face the fire, knowing I was standing on the edge of awakening? The world felt more fragmented than ever, with every leader, every pulse of technology echoing the rising struggle for control. A manipulation so calculated, it left unanswered questions in its wake. With urgency swelling within me, I understood this was merely the beginning of a story, yet to unfold. I remember the day it all shifted. An ordinary moment turned extraordinary. I was just a truck driver, navigating the same familiar routes day in and day out. The hum of the engine and the rhythm of the road lulled me into a routine existence, a life filled with the mundane yet comfortable. Yet that particular evening, as I sat at a roadside diner, the news flashed across the TV, reports of escalating conflicts in distant lands, the kind of chaos that felt worlds away until it didn't. I left the diner, a sense of foreboding creeping into my mind like a slow poison wrapping around my heart. As I climbed into my truck, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was on the brink of something that would alter my comprehension of reality itself. Hours later, as I barreled down the highway, a sudden flash of light blinded me. It all happened so swiftly, the collision with another vehicle, the sound of shattering glass, and then darkness enveloped me. I slipped away from my body, witnessing the carnage from a distance, feeling a profound sense of detachment. But in that moment of departure, I was thrust into an inexplicable realm where light and love swirled around me like a gentle embrace. It was there that I encountered Jesus, and his presence was overwhelming, an amalgamation of peace and power that emanated from him. He looked into the depths of my soul, illuminating the shadows of ignorance I had harbored unknowingly. In that surreal moment, Jesus revealed to me the hidden agenda of the elite, a web of control spun through technology and manipulation, seeded in the hearts of world leaders motivated by greed. I saw a vision of how deception cloaked truth across nations, inciting division among people, breeding mistrust and fear. It struck me like lightning, igniting a fierce understanding of how societal structures exploited our differences in faith and identity. I witnessed the spiritual war unfolding beneath the surface, conflicts fueled not just by political motives, but by a battle for every human soul. Each revelation felt like a wound in my chest, leaving me gasping for the urgency of truth that had been obscured by years of complacency and ignorance. Then, Jesus showed me a glimpse of the future, visions, fraught with turmoil, easy targets for manipulation. I saw communities torn apart, families divided, individuals lost in the chaos. The shadows of despair fell thick, and amid it all, I saw fragments of hope flickering, a call to awakening resonating through the darkness. It was a message meant for humanity, a summons to rise above the hatred and division. As his words pierced through me, I realized that the war around us was merely a reflection of an internal struggle, a far more significant spiritual battle within each heart. I felt the pulse of potential, the possibility of unity rooted in love and understanding. How vital it was to awaken to this reality. When I returned to my lifeless body, the weight of the revelations still fresh in my mind, I awoke in the hospital, tethered to life through machines that beeped and hummed. A part of me wanted to ignore what I had seen, to retreat into a world that offered comfort. But I could not shake the urgency. My life was no longer mine. Alone. I had been chosen as a messenger, a vessel to share these truths that had been hidden beneath layers of deception. Even as I lay there, I felt an insatiable need to reach out to others, to unveil the truth behind our collective amnesia, which allowed fear to navigate the ship of society. My purpose was clear. I needed to connect with those grappling against the tides of disillusionment, rallying them for the fight ahead. As I embarked on my recovery, the mission crystallized within me. Each encounter, every shared story, every ounce of pain, added fuel to the fire ignited during my near-death experience. My heart urged me to shout the revelations to the world, to awaken those who remained blind to the deception orchestrated around them. With each passing day, the ticking clock pressed harder, time's urgency tangible in the air, as if it could vocalize the impending storm. I could see the new world forming, the divisions deepening, the fabric of morality fraying, the footfalls of a spiritual war echoing ominously. I was reminded of the truth Jesus had revealed. No earthly or heavenly power could hinder his call to transform even the most hardened souls into beacons of light. And so, the question lingered within me, just as it had when I first returned. A question weighing on my heart. How would I spread this message before it was too late? As I reflect on my journey from that harrowing day to this moment, I find myself grappling with a truth that is as daunting as it is. Liberating. Have you ever experienced a flicker of hope amidst a flickering darkness? Because believe me when I say, something far greater is unfolding around us, a divine orchestration that seeks to awaken our tired souls. This isn't just my story. It is a whisper echoing through the hearts of countless others, those aching to break free from the veil of deception that our world has come to accept. In the light of Jesus' presence, I was shown the stark reality of our existence, a battle that transcends flesh and bone, a spiritual war raging fiercely within and around us. Each act of division and despair we see is but a reflection of the greater conflict at play. As we cling to our beliefs, we must question, how do we rise above and unite in love? Because the stakes have never been higher. Our awakening holds the potential to save not just one soul, but the fabric of humanity. I want to know, have you ever felt the call of something greater? A moment of clarity that shattered your reality? Please, share your experiences in the comments below. Lives intertwined in a lattice of truth and awakening await your voice. Your story matters, and together we can amplify the light piercing through the darkness. Before you go, do not miss out. Subscribe to our channel, Truth from Beyond, and hit the notification bell. Your support is vital as we navigate this uncharted territory together, peeling back layers of truth that demand to be experienced. The journey is far from over, and what lies ahead will challenge everything you thought you knew. In our next video, we will explore yet another testimony, a soul who navigated their own dark night of the soul and emerged transformed. I'm Saqib. Thank you for joining me today. Always remember, we are not alone, and the truth will guide us home.